coming through from the different parts of the country. In just a short while, we are expecting to be crossing over to the command center at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission at the HICC, where we've got a ZTN Prime team stationed there. And of course, Andy Hodges will be joining us to give us an update in terms of the position that ZEC has taken with regards to what is actually taking place. Now, we cross over to Mashonaland West, where we spoke to the elections officer there.
Those polling stations that opened a bit late also closed a bit late to compensate for lost time. I'm sure you are aware that the law prescribes that voting should take 12 hours. So if time is lost, it has to be compensated. So that is exactly what took place to those polling stations that opened a bit late. So currently, electoral officers are busy counting, verifying, and collecting the results. We closed on time. I can say 99% of our polling stations closed on time, with the exception of those few that opened a bit late. The political environment is actually peaceful. We have not yet received any incident of violence or anything. So right now we are preparing to have the elections for senator chiefs. It's actually today.
That, of course, was Shadrack Shokoto, the Deputy Elections Officer for Mashonaland West Province, giving us an update in terms of how it is that it is stipulated by the law that polling stations should remain open and operational for at least for 12 hours rather, with regards to the voters, and ordinarily that should be between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. But owing to the delays that were experienced across the country, they had to extend the times in a compensatory manner to allow citizens to cast their vote. Now, we made reference earlier to a statutory instrument that was issued by the government last night, indicating that voting continues into today. Again, we are giving compliments to the resilient, persevering Zimbabweans that weathered through the night at the different polling stations in Harare as well as Bulawayo. We were looking at visuals from Cold Comfort, visuals from Glenview, visuals from Glenora, where it is that you had citizens that stayed till late just so as they could get their opportunity to vote. Some of the centers opened as early as 4 a.m. That's when people started voting. And as we are speaking, voting is still ongoing. We will be giving you visuals of how the process is playing out in those outstanding areas of the country. And of course, we are looking at 6.6 million registered voters that are spread across the country, 12,370 polling centers spread across this teapot-shaped country called Zimbabwe. But what is it that is at stake? 270 National Assembly seats, 80 upper house seats or Senate seats, and we're also looking at 1,970 council seats and 1 presidential seat. This is what is actually at stake, and of course we are looking forward to be giving you updates as they come through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. We will be giving you updates from the capital. We'll be giving you just shortly updates from Bulawayo, where we have Andile Chuma stationed in Zimbabwe's second largest city. Now, at the close of our programming yesterday, we had just received information that you had about 23% of the polling stations in Bulawayo that had experienced delays with regards the ballots and the rest of the electoral processes. So we will be joined very soon by Andile Chuma so that she can give us an update of the progress as well as how things are unfolding in Bulawayo. And of course, we've got Sharon Munjenjema, who is stationed in the Midlands province, who will also be joining us shortly to give us an update in terms of how the situation is playing out. Soon we will be also getting updates from the different parts of Harare just to find out how the voting is taking place, of course, thanks to the extension extended through a statutory instrument late in the night. And so we will be giving you the stats as of course they come through. Now, just to also get into some of the stats that we are looking at where participation in this election is concerned. In the previous election, we had a 14% participation in as far as female candidates were actually concerned. But in this very election, we are looking at an aggregate of 11%, down 3% from the previous election. And then when you look at the presidential candidates in the 2018 plebiscite, you had 4 out of the 23 presidential candidates that participated there. But in this election, we're looking at 11 candidates and just 1 female candidate, that being Elizabeth Valerio of the UZA. We just want to take a look at some of the presidential candidates that we've got participating in this very plebiscite, starting with Joseph Makamba Busha, as they, of course, appear on the ballot. Joseph Makamba Busha of the Free Zimbabwe Congress. You also have Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change, who is said by some to be one of the front runners in this very plebiscite. Trust Chukohora of the Zimbabwe Coalition for Peace and Development, ZCPD. Blessing Kasia Muru of the Zimbabwe Partnership for Prosperity. Love Mo Maduku of the National Constituent Assembly, the NCA. Emerson Mnangagwa of the ZANU-PF. Wilbert Mubaiwa of the National People's Congress, the NPC. Gwinyai Muzorewa, a younger brother to the former Zimbabwe Rhodesia Prime Minister, Bishop Abel Muzorewa. You also have Elizabeth Valerio of the United Zimbabwe Alliance, Harry Peter Wilson of the Democratic Opposition Party. Douglas Munzora of the MDCT is appearing on the ballots in spite of his declaration of withdrawal, but the authorities made it clear that his withdrawal had come in too late. Now, time for us to take a breather. Election 2023. I'll be back shortly after the break. this is election 2023. We are coming to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. It's been an eventful evening, an eventful morning with some voting still in progress, particularly in Harare as well as in Bulawayo, the biggest cities here in Zimbabwe. And of course, we are giving you updates in terms of how this election is progressing. Very soon, we will be crossing over to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, where our ZTN team will be giving us updates of what the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is saying in terms of where we are at this juncture. Now, earlier on, we spoke to Minister Monica Mutsvangwa just soon after she casted her vote yesterday. Let's have a look at that feed.
Ndavhotera muklasi yandakadzidzira kuprimary school, saka ndafamba ndandine basa kuHarare. Ndafamba ndichiona vanhu mune runyararo runoshamisa muZimbabwe, runodadisa, runoratidza kuti vana veZimbabwe vakuziva zvavanoda, vanovhota murunyararo. Kwese kwandapfuura ndaona maqueues, ndikuratidza kuti vanhu vari kuda kuisa mutungamiri wavanoda kuti ava vava mutungamiriri for the next 5 years. Vana veZimbabwe vakawana democracy yakakwana musoro mavo, vakuziva zvakakwana musoro mavo, nekuti hapana pandamboona pane bopoto, pane noise, zvese kwakanyarara. Pano pagomba pandiri ndasvikawo ndichiona pane madzimai neana baba nevana vadiki vari kuvhota murunyararo. Zvinoratidza kuti vana veZimbabwe
Well, now we cross over to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Command Center at the HICC, where our team there is stationed. Now, we have got Andy Hodges, who joins us now to give us an update. Good morning, Andy Hodges. What is the latest?
Good morning, Eben. Of course, I'm Andy Hodges. I'm based here at the National Command Center. We're continuing our exclusive and extensive coverage of Zim Elections 2023 Zim votes. Now, we're just going to really have a quick look at what happened yesterday and look at some of the important issues. Well, obviously, as we've extensively reported, some of the polling stations did not open on time, or they opened late. And of course, the law states that you have 12 hours that you're allowed to vote. So any of those polling stations that opened at 7 a.m. closed at 7 p.m. But any of those that opened any other time, you take 12 hours from the time that they started voting. So that then took us into today, because some polling stations will only open today, and some, of course, only close very early in the morning. Now, then we entered into a legal issue, because when the president proclaims the elections must be carried out by law on the date that the president made his proclamation. So he said the 23rd of August. So because voting was spilling over into the morning of the 24th, and in fact some polling stations are only opening today on the 24th, there had to be something done legally to make it legal. So therefore the president then issued last night a statutory instrument which extended voting to today, and they also announced some wards that they were talking about. I won't tell you which ones they are, but I'll tell you the different provinces. You had Manicaland, there were 9 wards, Mutare, 17 wards, Mash Central, 2 wards, and Harare, 11 wards. Those are the numbers that we're picking up from the statutory instrument. So as I said, that was really a major legal requirement. Now, yesterday as well, here at the election center, the command center, we also spoke to various observers who seemed to express the fact that it was peaceful and safe out there. People were voting, and if you have to look at all the provinces, of the 10 provinces, 8 of them, it appears that the vote appeared to go without too much incident, except possibly for Mutare. But the rest of the wards and the constituencies in the eight provinces seemed to be okay, and voting proceeded normally. It's really in Harare and Bulawayo where the polling stations opened late, due to what ZEC called logistical challenges based on non-delivery, particularly of ballot papers for local authorities. We did also speak to the deputy chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission yesterday, Ambassador Kiwa, and he actually publicly apologized to the nation here on ZTN Prime for what he called minor logistical hiccups. He said that ZEC had hoped to resolve these issues as quickly as possible, but they were taking longer, and I think that's one of the issues. Having said that, of course, one very positive, Eben, was that Zimbabwe's voters, they waited in the queues, some of them waiting for as much as 7, 8, 9 hours. They waited, they didn't go home. They waited because they wanted to exercise their votes. They wanted to be able to, under our democracy, our free and fair election, they wanted to be able to pick the leaders of their choice. However, of course, it wasn't nice for citizens to be waiting for so long, particularly in the hot sun, because it is getting warm, of course, here in Harare and in Zimbabwe. So it wasn't comfortable for them. But it just shows you how citizens are committed to voting. Now, as I said, because of what happened with some of the polling stations, I think some of the good news from yesterday got drowned out in the noise, particularly people turning out in their numbers. It looks as if the women vote is coming out in large numbers. I'm still not sure yet about the youth vote. We'll try and put some of those numbers together, but definitely it looks like women will be one of the major voters in this election. And of course, what's ironic about that is that there's very few women candidates, but the women are out there voting. But obviously during the course of today, we will be talking to various women's groups to really understand what their perspective is in terms of the turnout for women. And also, of course, we'll also be trying to touch base with Person with Disabilities Organization to understand if they had any issues with voting, whether they were assisted with Braille, if they had issues with sight or hearing, and wheelchairs, how do they get into the polling station. So we will be here on ZTM Prime talking to all of the demographics who voted to understand from their viewpoint how the day was, how the 23rd of August, yesterday, proceeded, and so forth. So that really is an overview of yesterday even. Now, what we are waiting for right now is we've been told by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and here exclusively on ZTN Prime, we will be announcing some of the results, because obviously the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is the only body that can announce results. Now, you will recall that about 91 wards and local authorities were uncontested. Now, we knew, of course, who had won because they were uncontested, but we're not allowed to announce that they won until ZEC officially announces it. So we're imminently, they told me, they will be announcing officially those uncontested seats and who's won. And of course, here on ZTM Prime, you will hear it exclusively. We, in fact, I can say we will be announcing that exclusively to the nation right here on ZTM Prime. Eben?
I need you to weigh in on the extensions that you just made reference to, because I think that's where the attention of not just the overall population, but also even the interest of the observers spread across the country. Can you speak to these extensions that have been put in place and the provisions thereof in terms of the timelines, as well as also how it is that ZEC will be handling and processing those particular polling stations?
Yeah, talking to the ZEC officials this morning, I managed to have a quick word with them. They say that all of the polling agents at the particular polling stations have been advised about the statutory instrument and about the timing in sense of the 12 hours. So if a polling station opened at 7 a.m. this morning, the 24th, it will close at 7 p.m. this evening. If it opened at 4 a.m. in the morning, it will obviously be 12 hours from 4 a.m. this morning. So, but I think one of the issues, though, which I still haven't battened down, is have people been formally advised which polling stations are open, which polling stations will extend into 12 hours. And I think that's one area that we probably at ZTN Prime need to assist, is to really try and find out which of the polling stations that are affected and announce them, because I'm not sure if the communication has gone out effectively to voters so they understand this properly. But that's something, of course, that here we will be trying to chase up and making sure that voters are informed properly about all the issues that we can do when it comes to election 2023.
Can you speak to the results that have been coming through? Are there any expectations of when perhaps we could be getting some of the updates from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission about that?
Yes, Eben. Well, as I said earlier today, right now, in fact, I suppose in the next few minutes, we're just literally waiting. They will be announcing, firstly, the 91 uncontested local authority seats. I say officially because we know that who's won, but of course we cannot say they've won because it's only the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission by law can actually advise the nation who the winners are. So once we get that information, we'll do that. Now, what ZEC told me, in fact, talking to the deputy chair, is that they will try and announce the results, particularly for parliamentary and local authorities, as soon as they can. We may not necessarily have to wait 5 days because some of the results are easy to collate, they're easy to put together. So we're anticipating that probably not today, or if it is today, it'll be later this afternoon, but possibly, if I have to be safe, in the morning, we may start getting some of the results of other areas around the country. Of course, the presidential election will have to wait 5 days. Now, what was important about the statutory instruments, and listening to Zimbabwe's Minister of Justice, Ziambi, he said that irrespective of whether the polls will open today for voters to finish voting, the 5 days will not change from the 23rd. The results will still be announced within 5 days without fail. So we're still anticipating the results to be issued on the 29th of August is the date, the 5 days. So that line in the sand will not be changed, and it cannot be changed legally. So that, I suppose, is still good news. So irrespective of what happens on the ground in terms of voters and polling stations not yet finished voting, voters not yet finished voting at those polling stations, the results will still be coming out in that legally stipulated 5 days.
Andy Hodges giving us that update from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Andy, thank you very much. We will be getting back to you as the day unfolds. Well, of course, there you have it. We will be giving you updates, of course, as they come through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, with that update there to indicate that the 5-day period will be adhered to and observed in alliance with, or in confirmation to, the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Now, we have our correspondent Andile Chuma, who is stationed in Bulawayo. Good morning, Andile. What's the latest there in Bulawayo?
Good morning. We're back at the Bulawayo Provincial Command Center, and we are waiting for any formal updates from the officers here present. However, so far, mostly work that is happening has been vote counting all around the different polling stations, and some polling stations voted as late as up to 3-4 a.m. In the early hours of today, for those that encountered delays in the commencement of voting yesterday. That is what is generally happening. However, it's really a normal day-to-day. People are back at work, although there is a lot of activity and interest on the electoral processes, and people are eagerly waiting for results. However, some polling stations that managed to finish on time yesterday displayed results for the different candidates that were contesting, and people were able to see the results of those particular polling stations. And for those that had delays, vote counting is still ongoing, or it has been done, but results have not yet been posted. Generally, that is what is happening. But some polling stations are currently still open for the different logistical happenings that must be happening there, and we're hoping that within the next hour or so we can get a formal interview or a formal briefing from the chief polling officer, chief elections officer here at the command center.
Andile Chuma, thank you for giving us that update. Of course, Andile, they're indicating that polling has continued in the affected areas, of course, by the delays that were encountered in certain parts and districts of the country. And as she indicated that we are waiting to get official communication, we are also expecting as ZTN Prime to be giving you conversations with the responsible authorities in Bulawayo in as far as the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is actually concerned. And the statutory instrument that was released last night would of course be Statutory Instrument 140A of 2023 of the electoral regulations in this year 2023. And of course, this plebiscite continues. We are looking forward to ensuring that citizens spread across the length and the width of Zimbabwe get their opportunity to participate in this very plebiscite. We are speaking of 6.6 million registered voters spread across 12,370 polling stations that are expected to actually cast their vote. And we have been getting reports that in certain parts of the country, especially in Bulawayo and Harare. Now we cross over to Midlands Province, particularly in Gweru, where Sharon Munjenjema is stationed to give us an update. Good morning, Sharon. What is the latest?
Good morning. I'm speaking to you from Gweru, where the provincial command center for the Midlands Province is situated. And we just approached the office of the provincial elections officer, Mrs. Dorcas Mpofu, for the Midlands Province, and she was supposed to give us an update of the voting processes in the Midlands Province, but apparently Mrs. Dorcas Mpofu was too busy to speak to us. But from our observations so far, there is no polling station in Gweru or in Kwekwe where voting is still in process. And by the end of the day yesterday, we had managed to go to some polling stations on the outskirts of Kwekwe where ballot papers were delivered on time, and voting also started on time and ended on the scheduled stipulated time of 7 p.m. And that was also the case for some polling stations in Gweru that we went to. But some voters in Gweru Urban raised concerns about slow moving queues, as well as a large number of voters who were turned away from polling stations that they normally voted and redirected to other polling stations that were quite a distance away. And we were also able to go to polling stations in Shurugwi, and by the time that we reached the command center of Shurugwi South constituency, the authorities there informed us that voting had also started on time in that constituency, and there had not been any glitches reported in terms of late delivery of ballot papers or even any violence. But we noticed some interesting statistics in Shurugwi South, where in a constituency where more than 25,000 registered voters are present, only about 8,000 were able to cast their vote by around 4 p.m. And the reasons for that low turnout of voting is not yet established. But that is all that we have for you in terms of updates in the voting processes in the Midlands Province, and we will be giving you more as we get them. It's back to you at the studio.
Thank you, Sharon, for giving us that update. We will be getting back to you as the day progresses. The highlight there, of course, being that processes were a smooth sailing. However, in the Shurugwi area, where Sharon says out of 25,000 registered voters, just 8% participated there. That would translate to about 30 to 40% of the registered voters actually participating. Quite a worrying statistic. Of course, we are looking at 6.6 million registered voters spread across the 12,370 polling stations that we have got in Zimbabwe. We would like to encourage Zimbabweans in Harare, in Bulawayo, in Manicaland, as well as in other provinces where there were delays, to visit their polling stations and see to it that they participate. We have been getting some reports that some polling stations only had people starting to vote at about 5 a.m. this morning. And so should you have visited your polling station and possibly got back home and were not able to cast your vote, we are encouraging you to please visit your polling station because you will be allowed to cast your vote over a 12-hour period. And that is the message that is coming through the statutory instrument. That is the message that is coming through the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, that you are entitled to 12 hours at your specific polling stations for you to actually cast your vote. And of course, we have got different observers that are spread across the country who are giving their attention to the entire electoral processes, of course, guided by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, guided by the Zimbabwe Constitution, guided by the SADC protocol on elections, guided by also the AU protocols in as far as the observance of member states to particular guidelines that are indicated. I just want to bring attention to some of the observer delegations and missions that we have in the country. We have got SADC observers led by Mr. Nevers Mumba, the former Zambian deputy president, the AU COMESA delegation led by His Excellency Goodluck Jonathan, former president of the Republic of Nigeria, the OACPS, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific countries, a Commonwealth team led by Dr. Amina Jawahir Mohammed. We also have an EU observer team led by Mr. Fabio Castaldo. Now we are just getting information and detail that there is some activity at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Command Center at the HICC here in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. And shortly after the break, we will be giving you updates from the ZEC Command Center. Of course, coverage continues from the different parts of the country. Don't go anywhere. brought to you by ZTN Prime. We are broadcasting to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. Of course, the key highlight of this election is that there has been a statutory instrument that has extended the voting as provided for in the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Now, there is some activity at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Command Center where we have got a team there. Now, we are joined once again by Andy Hodges. Andy, once again, good morning. What's the latest there at the Command Center?
Thank you, Eben. In fact, we're just really waiting because this morning when I went and spoke to the ZEC officials, they announced that imminently, they'd mentioned this it was around 10 o'clock they said this to me. They said imminently they will be on the big screens here announcing the results of the 91 uncontested local authority seats. And of course, as you know, just to recap, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will not, like previous elections, be announcing all results here in the auditorium. Before, they used to announce presidential, parliamentary and local authority. They would come out and announce it. This year it's different. In this election, they will be putting up the results on the screens that's here, and we of course have direct feed into that, so we'll be instantly here on ZTN Prime giving you the results as they come out. So the parliamentary and local authority results will be posted up on the large TV monitors that are here at the command center. Only the presidential results will be announced in the auditorium by the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, Justice Chigumba. So really that's where we are. We're also, of course, later on we will be taking all of our viewers. We'll give you what's actually here, because you know I'm here at the command center. You know this is where I'm reporting from. We thought let's show you exactly what is at the command center. We'll be showing you the auditorium. We'll also be showing you upstairs where the ZEC offices are and where some of the presidential polling agents will be based, so that you can get an idea of exactly what's inside HICC and exactly what's happening. You know, as they say, when you see it, you can believe it. Eben?
Well, Andy, I am just trying to sort of picture what this means, because for the longest time Zimbabweans have been used to there being announcements for the local government results, announcements for the National Assembly results, but for us to have a scenario where there will not be announcement in the form of, well, in this and that constituency, this is what it is looking like. So are we saying that when these are then posted on those screens that you spoke about, is that then when you will give us the updates of how it's playing out? Or how is the media responding to this? Because at the end of the day, it becomes important that that information is disseminated across the country. How is it going to play out? What indications do you have at this point?
The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is saying that, you know, previously they did announce, as I said, the parliamentary and local authority results. They said, you know, we don't have to do that now because it's pretty obvious. Because if you look at a ward, for example, in a ward, it's a small area in a city for local authorities. There aren't many polling stations, so it's very easy to correlate the numbers for each voter. And remember, each polling station will be putting the numbers outside. So in terms of the correlation of putting those numbers together, that should be quite quick. Similarly with members of parliament constituencies. So they say that instead of us coming out and announcing these as they come out, we will correlate and we'll be sort of feeding them out into the system through that big monitors here. As a result. So the moment that it does hit that monitor here at the National Command Center, that is the official announcement by ZEC who has won, particularly relating to local authorities and members of parliament. Now, I will say the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission does have that 5 days legal requirement to issue results. They have said, though, that if they can get the results out earlier, they will. So you may find results starting to come through, possibly, as I said, we'll start off with the uncontested local authorities. Maybe we could be lucky to start getting some results late in the evening today or tomorrow. Because don't forget, what happens, of course, is that when the pollings have finished and the counting is done and all political agents have signed off and the results of V11 is posted outside the ballot center, the polling centers, well, then those physical ballots are taken to provincial election centers, and then physically they're transported to the National Command Center where we are sitting right in the heart of. So it's a bit of a process, but it's the kind of process you have to have, because here we're talking about paper. You know, if for example, like other elections, you could vote electronically, then it would be much easier, because you would go in, you would vote electronically, instantly those results would be communicated to the command center. But because we still use paper ballots, which have to be counted physically, they have to be packed up together, they have to be verified by all the agents of political parties, and then they have to be physically transported to the command center. That adds a bit of time because of the logistics of it. You can imagine polling ballots coming from deep in the rural areas. But at some point where I'm sitting, every single vote, every single ballot cast will be right here at some point over the next few days. But of course, ZEC will be announcing the results, particularly of local authorities and members of parliament, as soon as they can. Of course, the presidential results will probably take about 5 days. And one of the reasons for that, of course, is because of the 50% plus one. ZEC needs to make sure that the votes are completely correct. So they may even recount them just to ensure they're correct. Or because of that extra one vote. Because the vote matters in the presidential election. Because if you don't win that 50% plus one, you'll then have to go for a runoff, which is slated for 2 weeks on the 2nd of October. Eben?
Now, Andy, as I said, for the longest time, Zimbabweans were used to a scenario where it is that, I beg your pardon, where it is that you had Tobayo Amudede, the former Registrar General, and most recently Justice Priscilla Chigumba, announcing the results at councillor level as well as also at the House of Assembly. Now, I'm trying to picture a scenario where you have got a 75-year-old widower in Chendambuya who in the previous election was used to tuning into the different radio stations or television stations and listening to the results announcements for their councillors, for their members of parliament. And now you are saying that these will be pasted at the screens at the command center of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now the question is this: how will that information be spread to the different parts of the country? And what does this mean for different media institutions? I'm talking of print, I'm talking of radio, I'm talking of television in that regard.
Well, even as you can appreciate, at the command center, pretty much every radio station, every TV station is based. So the only difference, I would suppose, is that before when the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission announced it, we would obviously be doing it live. Now, in essence, they're not going to be announcing it. However, nothing really changes. Radio stations will still be immediately transmitting that information, particularly our own Star FM, Diamond FM, Platinum FM, Capitalk, and also, of course, ZTN Prime. So the only difference is that there won't be an announcement officially by ZEC. The official announcement will be on the monitors here. However, we instantly, as the media, will be broadcasting those results to the nation through the various platforms. In Zim Paper's case, through a ZTN Prime, and also via our social media pages, and also, of course, via our radio stable that's here at Zim Papers.
Right. Now, may you speak a little bit more with regards to the coming in of the results as well as the 5-day deadline. Will there be an adherence to that? And does ZEC have the capacity to ensure that we actually meet that deadline as stipulated by the law?
Okay, Eben, in fact, I have to actually to actually cut you off there because some of the results have come through. We'll be looking at some of the results, so I'm actually going to just go over to the monitor screen. We should be able to put it up on our screens at the station, and we should be able to then talk about these. These are the uncontested seats. Right, so even if you can hear me, Mash East, unopposed wards, let me go through these. Unopposed wards, Mash East, Chikomba RDC, Mudzamiri Florence, ZANU-PF, Goromonzi RDC, Million Peter, ZANU-PF, Marandera RDC, Nyarambi Havmore, ZANU-PF, Murewa RDC is Chidima Norris, ZANU-PF, Wedza RDC, Songozo Godwin, ZANU-PF, Wedza RDC, Mutswiri Solomon Zungai, ZANU-PF, Wedza RDC, Zenere Takunda Azanu, Wedza, Zirai Singirai, Musikwa Boswell is Wedza as well, and Nando Wedza, Svetai RDC, Badze Batsira, and Mwanza Nyasi from Zedza. So these are some of the results from MASH. We, of course, will continue reading them out. Mashonaland West unopposed wards. We continue with the names. And remember, this is now official. We are now announcing the official candidates who have won according to ZEC. Chegutu will be Chare Kentenda Farai Makonde, Chigaba Peter, Makonde Murinbika Eniwe, Makonde Machawira Lucky, Makonde Nyarobero Mishek, Makonde Madiwa Joshua, Mondoro Ngezi Jindu Martin, Mandora Ngezi RDC, Mavata Emmanuel, Sanyati RDC, Micherepi Kudzai, Sanyati RDC Ngwenya Semai, Sanyati RDC Tenapi Nyson, Sanyati RDC Banda Stanford. So as I said, and we will be continuing now, but as I said, these are now official. These candidates have been announced by ZEC as winning unopposed in the wards that I've just said, and the names of the candidates. So I can say this is the first results announcement of election 2023. We now move to Mashvingo unopposed wards. Okay, local authority. We're now talking here about Mashvingo RDC, Maruse Johnson, ZANU-PF, Mwenezi RDC, Sai Pilate, ZANU-PF, Mwenezi RDC, Shoko Colin, ZANU-PF, Mwenezi RDC, Madevu Lizwe, ZANU-PF. So that's Mashvingo unopposed wards, 4 of them. All, of course, most of these, in fact, all of these are ZANU-PF seats. ZANU-PF won them unopposed because the Triple C and other institutions did not field candidates to contest in these wards. So, of course, they won unopposed. So, as I said, even, this is an official announcement. This is ZEC announcing right here at the command center the winners of the unopposed seats. And right here on ZTN Prime, you're hearing it. The nation is hearing it for the first time. Matabeleland North unopposed wards. Again, we continue with the unopposed wards. Local authorities. We're looking at Bubi RDC, Moyo Bongiwe, Virginia from ZANU-PF. Bubi RDC, Ntinkulu David, ZANU-PF. Bubi RDC, Moyo Roger Christine, ZANU-PF. That is for Matabeleland North unopposed wards. So as I said, as I said, we're continuing to give you the unopposed seats. This is the official announcement by ZEC. So it answers your question, I suppose, earlier even about how ZEC is going to announce it. Well, this is exactly how they're doing it. So as we're seeing it coming up now, live, we're immediately reporting the results to the nation as we're sitting here. Of course, we will continue playing the unopposed winners, as we take our breaks. Of course, so please stay tuned to ZTN Prime. Matabeleland South unopposed wards. So the winners of those wards, local authorities, Gwanda Municipality, Mpofu Sitabiso, ZANU-PF, Gwanda Municipality, Moyo Tulani, ZANU-PF, Gwanda Municipality, Matebu Tembani, ZANU-PF, in Ziza RDC, in Komo Kembo, ZANU-PF, in Ziza RDC, Zhao Ruzive, ZANU-PF, in Ziza RDC, Chinamo Mishek, ZANU-PF. So those are the unopposed wards in that area. That was 3, 4, 5, 6 wards which were unopposed, all again won by ZANU-PF. Remember, as we entered the elections, we knew ZANU-PF were unopposed in around 91 local authority wards, and now this is the official announcement by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission that these are now the winners. So officially, these are the winners of those unopposed wards, and that is that in terms of ZEC is concerned. Now, Midlands unopposed wards is the next category that ZEC is announcing right now. Gokwe North RDC, Tafume, Kinzimo, ZANU-PF, Gokwe South, Maketo Cosmas, ZANU-PF, Mberengwa RDC, Mudzingwa Gadzirai, ZANU-PF, Mberengwa Shuma Nembesi, Mberengwa RDC, Jo Sitendaba, Takawira Danga Williams, Takawira RDC, Gondo William Tichagura, Takawira would be Metsira Clifos, Takawira RDC, Moteda Samuel Zituta, Takawira RDC, Shuzai Frederick, Takawira RDC, Makowe Tobias, Takawira RDC, Musemwa Konko, Takawira NDC, Musenge Allen Tinovonga, Takawira NDC, Miti Tembikosi Nyoni, and then Zikterai Tapera and Mashasha Margaret, all for Takawira RDC.
For the updates in terms of those uncontested
wards is the next announcement. Tongogawa RDC is Makara Lonely, ZANU-PF, Tongogawa RDC, Magarinia Lawrence, Tongogawa, again, these are all Tongogawa, Rizibe Tatenda, Chiteme Brian, and Mike Chiedza. That's Tongogawa RDC. And then Vungu RDC and Mpofu Sidani. Sebangwe RDC, Bomani Trust, Mutsvori Biliso Edson, Dongo Idiwashe, Chitate Chitafa, and Nyamdu Yambanje, Forget P, all Zimbabwe RDC, all ZANU-PF. I can't answer.
Thank you for giving us the updates in terms.
Now, this is an interesting proposal that's coming up now. Statistics by gender for unopposed wards. Male unopposed 80, female unopposed 10. These are statistics straight from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Male unopposed 80, female unopposed 10.
Thank you, Andy, for those particular updates in terms of those 91, if not 92, uncontested wards that have all been taken by ZANU-PF. And perhaps, Andy, this explains my earlier question with regards to how exactly it would actually play out. And I think that's crystal clear, and that is palatable enough in terms of the dissemination of the information with regards to the turnouts in in terms of the results from the different wards, the different constituencies, as well as also where some of the statistics that we have as they are coming through. Andy, can you speak with regards to the voter, with regards to how it is that you've got more males again dominating in these particular results, with fewer females taking up those seats in those local government results? We seem to have lost Andy just now, but of course the results are coming through. Andy Hodges is stationed at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Command Center, just giving us the latest updates in terms of how things have played out. And as Andy Hodges just indicated, that while we got into this election with the knowledge and the appreciation of the fact that there were some uncontested seats, now we still had to wait for the official communication to come from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission so that we could know that there is actually a particular figure. Now we are looking at the Mashonaland Central figures once again as they are coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Right. It seems we are failing to get that communication there coming from Andy Hodges, but these are the statistics as they are coming through from the different parts of the country in terms of which candidates went through uncontested. And now we are looking at the results from Mashonaland Central, where we have some unopposed wards. Again, these have been dominated by ZANU-PF as they are coming through. We will be reading out some of them with precision and with clarity as they're coming through. But as you can see from the screens, we are looking at the different wards, both urban as well as the rural district councils in that particular regard. We, of course, will be moving on to another district to look at how things have actually played out in terms of the results. Now we cross over to Mashonaland East Province, the unopposed wards in there, in the Chikomba Rural District Council, Ward 7. The name of the councillor is Mudzamiri Florence, a female ZANU-PF party. Goromonzi RDC, Million Peter of the ZANU-PF is a male. Marondera Rural District Council, Nyarambi Have Mo ZANU-PF, Murewa Rural District Council, Chidima Norest ZANU-PF, Wedza RDC, Songozo Godwin of the ZANU-PF uncontested, Wedza RDC, Mutswiri Solomon Zungai ZANU-PF, Wedza RDC, Jemere Takunda, Jairo Shingirai also in Wedza, Musekiwa Boswell Wedza, Kadungure Roderick Nando, Chiwota Dorothy Roesai, Badze Batsirai Mwanza, Nzwanai, for all from ZANU-PF as part of the 92 uncontested wards. We continue with our coverage as the stats are coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now we move to Mashonaland West unopposed wards, beginning with the Chegutu RDC, Ward 12, Charakatenda, Farai, ZANU-PF, Makonde RDC, Chigaba Peter, Ward 1, ZANU-PF, Makonde RDC, Ward 4, Murumbika, Eniwe, Makonde RDC, Machawira Laki, Makonde RDC, Nyarubero, Mishek, Makonde RDC, Madiwa, Joshua, Ward 16, Mondorongezi RDC, Jindu, Martin, Mawata, Emmanuel, Ward 13, Sanyati, Muchineripi Kudzai, by Ward 9, Ngwenya Semai, Ward 12, Tinapi Naison, Ward 15, Banda, Stanford, Ward 17, all from ZANU-PF. And of course, we move on to another province, and this perhaps spells out how the results will be coming through at ward level as well as at the House of Assembly. We move on to Masvingo, unopposed wards, all clinched by ZANU-PF. In the Masvingo RDC Ward 29, Mauruse Johnson, ZANU-PF. You also have from Mwenezi RDC, Sai Pilate, ZANU-PF. Mwenezi RDC, Shoko Colin, ZANU-PF. As of course these are appearing on your screen. In Mwenezi RDC, Matevo Lizwe, ZANU-PF. These are the stats that we are just receiving from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and once again these are official stats. Just to reiterate that we got into this election with the knowledge that there were 92 uncontested wards, but we could not run with that till we received official communication and official confirmation from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now we move to Matebeleland North, the unopposed wards there in the local authorities. The Bubi RDC, Moyobongiwe, Virginia, ZANU-PF. Again in Bubi RDC, Ward 17, Mutimkulu, David, male, ZANU-PF. Still in Bubi RDC, you also have another ZANU-PF member, Moyo Roger Christian, male, from Ward 18. We continue with these statistics. So this pretty much spells out how this election is framed in terms of the results announcements. It's pretty much a different ball game. In the previous elections, we were used to receiving this information from the ZEC officials by means of vocal or verbal announcement, but now we are looking at the ZEC screens and extrapolating this information, and we are giving you the information as it comes through here at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now we are in Matebeleland South, unopposed wards. We are looking at Ward 1, Gwanda Municipality, Mpofu Sitabiso, female, Gwanda Municipality, Moyotulani, ZANU-PF, male, Matutu Tebani, Ward 7, male, ZANU-PF, Nkomo, Kembo, male, ZANU-PF. In Caesar RDC, Jo Ruzive, ZANU-PF. In Caesar Rural District Council, Ward 21, Chinamo Mishek, male, ZANU-PF. These are the first results that are coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. And just to rehash that, everybody is making sense of this new setup in terms of results announcements, where our councils are concerned, where our members of parliament are concerned. And of course, at Zim Papers, we will be giving you the updates as they come through Diamond FM, Star FM, ZTN Prime, as well as the rest of our radio stations. Gokwe North RDC Tapfumane, Kinzimo, ZANU-PF male. Gokwe South RDC Maketo Cosma, ZANU-PF. Mberengwa RDC Munzingwa Gazerai male. Ward 17 Shumba Nyembe is still in Mberengwa. Jo Stenti Ndaba. Ward 28 Takawira RDC, Danga Williams, Takawira RDC. The rest are from Takawira. Gondo William Tichagura, Matizira, Clyphos Moitecha, Samuel Sizuta, Shujai, Frederick Makoe, Tobias Musenga Konek, Masenge Alan Tinobonga, Miti Tembinko Sinyoni, Zitirai Tapera, Mashasha Margaret, all from ZANU-PF. We continue to give you the updates. We move on to the Midlands province, where there were unopposed wards, all clinched by ZANU-PF. Tongogara RDC, a male candidate from ZANU-PF in the Ward 3, Makara Lonely. Then still in Tongogara RDC, Magarinya Lawrence, male, ZANU-PF Ward 4, Rozibe Tatenda, Chitemi Brian from Ward 19, Ward 20, Mike Chiedza, then Vungo RDC, Mpofu Sindani, male, ZANU-PF, Bomani Trust, Ward 1, male, ZANU-PF Mutosori, Basilio Edson, male, ZANU-PF, Zimbabwe RDC, Dongo Idirashe, Chitate, Tichafa, Nyamu, Jigambanje, Forget P, Ward 33, male, ZANU-PF. Quite a different ball game, a different means of the articulation and the communication of the results at councillor level as well as at the House of Assembly. Now, some statistics as well coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission in terms of the distribution of these unopposed wards by gender. You had male unopposed, that's 80, female unopposed, that's 10. So that means we are looking at 90 wards, beg your pardon, therefore the figures 90, so 80 male vis-a-vis 10 female, perhaps a reflection of the stats that we are looking at the grand scale, where it is that we are noting that we've got an 11% female participation in terms of the candidates participating in this election vis-a-vis a 14% outturn in the previous election, where that was the 2018 plebiscite. Again, even if you are to look at the presidential outturn, last election we had 23 candidates and 4 females, which translates to 17%. In this election, we are looking at 11 candidates, even though one opted not to continue, but Zek said that was too late. And so there we are looking at a participation of a different aggregate, 9% out of the entire, down from 17% last plebiscite. Now we look at Manicaland unopposed wards in the Motare RDC, where you have Chikwama Enoch from Ward 8, male, ZANU-PF. In the Manicaland province, there was just one uncontested ward, that being Ward 8, taken and clinched by ZANU-PF. So ZANU-PF clinched there the 90 wards in that part of the country. We continue to give you the updates as they come through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Some of the results have been coming through from the different parts of the country. And of course, it is our role, our mission, our mandate to give you the stats as they come through without fear or favor. We move to Mashonaland Central, unopposed wards. We're looking at Bindura RDC, Ward 2. The name of the councillor is Zenamwe Ngodinzashe, male, ZANU-PF. Bindura, Ward 8, Bure Albert, ZANU-PF. Chaminuka RDC, Chidzungu Rodwell, Ward 6. Chaminuka RDC, Musona Lawrence, Ward 11. Chapende Mike, Ward 14. Perekani Muchanyara, Ward 17. Jizai Talent Tamai, Ward 18. Manyara Ernest, Ward 20. Guruwe RDC, Moyo Tsitsi. Zivambiso Chenjerai Albert, Matope Coven. Chinotimba Edwin, Ward 23. Drau Agripa Zangu, Ward 1. We move to Mashonaland Central Province, the unopposed wards there. Fura RTC, Ndeke Tonderai, Ward 10. Fura RDC, Ward 14. Chigango Emmanuel, Somani Chiripila, Ward 32. Bedemu Stanley, Ward 39. Moving to Rushinga RDC, Kaitano Peter, Ward 1. Ward 2, Mukoka Regis, Ward 4. Kamugogode Shepherd, Ward 4. Kachizo Paul, Ward 5. Parengeta Bestmo, Ward 16. Mahachi Kudzanai, Ward 18. Mafunge Maja, Ward 20, all clinched by ZANU-PF. And these are the initial results that are coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. quite an adaptation, isn't it? This is a different ball game to what we had been used to in the previous years. And these are the stats coming through from Mashonaland East unopposed wards. Mudzamiri Florence, Ward 7 from the Chikomba RDC, Goromonze RDC, Million Peter, Marondera RDC, Nyarambi Hevmo, Murewa RDC, Chidina, Norest, Weza RDC, Songozo, Godwin, Weza RDC, Mutswiri, Solomon Zungai, Weza RDC, Zemere Takunda. And of course, you can continue to look at the stats as they are coming through. We are all, as a population, having to adapt to this new strategy. As journalists, we are also having to make do with this particular setup of the results announcements. It's a different ball game. We are not used to it, and we are here, and we are of course looking at the stats as they are coming through. We are adapting to this new setup, and from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, we've got a team stationed there that will be giving us as well as giving you the stats as they are coming through. Time to take a break. Election 2023. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Following the story.
What is happening on Zimbabwe's roads? How did we get here? Through red robots. Basically break every road rule under the sun.
So nini ndakadhakwa nembanje dzangu ndikaenda kuchipatara ndaunorapwa ka handibatsiri asi ndingazvishaya tega aiwa.
Deeper analysis.
So, are you ready and prepared if violence rears up?
Jacob Mafume's party has taken hostage of them.
The videos are there.
Do not be drawn into the debate of discussing issues that are subjective. He said when he grows up, he would like to be like me.
Just to put you in there.
Good evening and welcome to the program. Just to break the ice, what is ZNF's mandate?
To promote media freedom.
And money matters.
Coming up, Tanganda Limited is set to bring online a macadamia processing plant.
Now, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange listed company Seedco Limited has resolved to suspend indefinitely its proposal.
Every week on ZTN Prime.
Need an easier way to pay your DSTV account? There's Mukuru for that. DSTV payments can be made at over 200 Mukuru branches and booths across all towns in Zimbabwe, from Harare to Mutare, Kwekwe to Kariba. Plus, pay as little as $1 in fees when paying with Mukuru. Simply WhatsApp +263 867 700 9604 and select the Buy Pay option to get started. Mukuru.
This is election 2023. We are coming to you from our ZTN studios in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. Of course, we are giving you the latest results as they are coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. And you can have a look and get an appreciation of what the stats are looking as. course, those are some of the stats that are coming through, where it is that ZANU-PF clinched 90 seats uncontested, where there were 80 males vis-a-vis 10 females, a reflection, of course, of the participation of the females in this very election. Now, we will continue to give you the updates as they come through our correspondence that are spread across the country. We cross over now to down south, Beitbridge, where we have our correspondent Tupeo Mulea to give us an update. Good morning. It's now afternoon. Tupeo, what is the latest in Beitbridge?
Good morning, Zimbabwe. Voting ended well in Beitbridge East and Beitbridge West constituents. Right now we're at the Sayoja police station under Beitbridge municipality. The election officers have taken the polling residue to the respective collation centers for further conveyance to the constituency election offices. So far there are no incidents of violence which have been reported. It's business as usual. People are back to their normal lives. They are only waiting for the official announcements of results by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. For Zimbabwe's Prime Television, I'm Tupeo.
Well, thank you very much, Tupeo, for giving us that update. There have been no cases of violence in Beitbridge. It's been almost seamless in that part of the country, and we continue to give you feedback. Now, we move to Norton, where the elections officer there gave us an update. Let's take a look.
I'm John Mahaso, the constituency elections officer for Norton constituency. The update for the polling process in the constituency was as follows. All our polling stations opened on time, 7 o'clock, and the polling process went on throughout the 12 hours that are expected to be covered during polling. At 7 p.m., all our polling stations closed the poll, and then they started to do the processing of the results. And by early morning, we started to have the polling officers going to the ward elections officers started at the ward command center, where the collation started, and we have 4 wards that have completed the collation and are now here at the command center, meaning 10 out of our 14 ward centers are still processing at ward level. So as we speak right now, we have 4 ward election officers and their team who are now submitting their information or results at the command center. We didn't receive many challenges or complaints, save for some areas where you would find, as expected, the competing parties giving reports of issues like putting on of regalias, but we were quick to get onto the ground to verify whether these were really regalia or not, and it was confirmed. We confirmed that they were not regalia, but the people were just putting attire that had a uniform color, and that was resolved. We also came across cases where 2 people had almost the same personal details, like the ID number, the name, surname, ID number, physical address being similar, and the variance was only at the sex level, where on the voters roll it was written male and one of the people who wanted to vote using that was female. And then the photograph was that of a woman and not a man. So one of the second voter was turned down on the basis that the information did not tally with exactly what was on the voter's roll. Otherwise, out of those issues that I have raised, we didn't have challenges in terms of the voting process. It was very peaceful. We didn't receive cases of politically instigated violences during the polling process.
That update there coming from the elections officer in Norton. Now, earlier on, we spoke to the Mashonaland Central Provincial Elections Officer. Let's have a look.
General election, we closed all polling stations yesterday. We are left with a few polling stations in Fura Rural District Council. We've got 3. They are voting today from 7 to 7. Bindura North RDC, it's Ward 4. They are voting now. Voting is on in these 2 RDCs. As for today, the chiefs have voted. They voted their 2 senators into Senate, and we have just finished the election.
Oh, okay, maybe the total number of cast votes as of yesterday.
Maybe at the command center now. I don't have those statistics here at the command center.
Now, of course, we are getting those updates that are coming from Mashonaland Central Provincial Elections Officer, who says that the process has been seamless. It's been a smooth sailing. We also spoke to those from Beitbridge. Tupe Mulea gave us an update in terms of how that part of the country, things have sailed in that Beitbridge border post. And of course, we also got other updates from Midlands Province, and we also got different sort of results coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now, of note is the fact that one theme is quite prevalent across the country. It's been a peaceful process. It's been a peaceful engagement, and we hope and pray that peace will be upheld, and that peace will be maintained throughout the course of this electoral process. And of course, we continue to give you the updates as they are coming through. In just a short while, we will be crossing over to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, where we've got our team there, and Andy Hodges is stationed there just to make sure that we get the latest information as it actually comes through. What has affected the electoral processes has been the element of delay, particularly in Manicaland, Bulawayo, as well as Harare. We got the information that only 23% of the polling stations in Harare, Zimbabwe, opened for voting at 7 a.m. And so that has had a delaying effect in terms of the processes. Now, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, it did, of course, indicate in an exclusive conversation with our ZTN Prime stations there that there would be that 12-hour compensatory effect coming in to say if there was a delay in as far as the commencement of the electoral processes, then there would be compensatory hours to ensure that citizens in the respective polling centers would get their opportunity to vote. We are reliably informed that voting is still ongoing. Of course, the statutory instrument kicked in last night that gave the legal leeway for that particular process to carry on, just so as we ensure that all citizens spread across the 10 provinces of Zimbabwe get their chance, get the opportunity to cast their vote. It is your democratic right for you to exercise yourself in that regard. And of course, this is in alliance with Article 21 of the United Nations Human Rights Charter, that citizens of any country should have a direct or an indirect influence in terms of the systems of governance in their particular country. And now we have Andy Hodges on standby at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Hello, Andy. What is the latest at the command center?
Hi, Eben. Of course, as you know, I'm situated here at the National Command Center at HICC in downtown Harare, right in the center of Harare. And of course, this is the hub. This is where all the results will be announced by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. And in fact, this is the nerve center, if I can say, of Zimbabwe's election. Just to go back a bit, because I want to explain why I'm doing this. Well, first of all, there's what I can call benchmarks in terms of election process. The first benchmark, most people would say, would be the nomination court, when it sat to look at the candidates who are nominated by the various parties, or the paperwork is in order. Then, of course, they were accepted after they paid their fees. That's when, of course, the Zimbabweans found out who their candidates were for various positions at local authority, members of parliament, as well as presidential. Then you moved after nomination court into the campaign period, which started immediately after nomination court and actually stopped midnight last Monday. That was the last day, the last time that you could actually campaign, midnight last Monday. Today's now Thursday. Then, of course, the next benchmark is polling day, which of course was Wednesday the 23rd of August, and the President last night, through a statutory instrument, extending it to today for those polling stations that didn't manage to do the vote. Some of them, of course, hadn't opened, some only opened today, and others closed early this morning. So to legally cover that, the President had to issue a statutory instrument to say to the nation that the 24th of August is also a voting day. If he hadn't done that, it could have led to disputes in the election from various players, because the law states that when the President makes a proclamation, the election must happen on that day. Now we're moving to the next benchmark, and in fact this, I suppose, to most is the exciting period. This is now when results are to be announced by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. I hasten to add that only the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission can announce results. So if anybody knows the results out there, they can know them, but they cannot officially announce them. Only Zimbabwe Electoral Commission can announce. So when I said that we've hit the next benchmark, well, just now, less than 15 minutes ago, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, here on the screens, remember what I told you earlier, that for the local authorities and parliamentary elections, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will be posting them on the big TV screens here at the command center. They won't be like they used to do previously, announce them physically from the auditorium. Only the presidential election will be announced by the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. All other seats will be announced via the monitor system, which of course ZTN will bring you live as they come out. In fact, I can say that ZTN Prime is actually announcing the results of the election via our channel. But of course, we now need to try and look and analyze this. As I said, this is the first results being announced. These results are for the unopposed candidates in the 90 wards where no one actually contested, and so this is what the results are. So when I say it's another benchmark, this is now the start of announcing of results. So I'm joined here at the National Command Center by Sakile Sifalani Ngoma. We did speak to her yesterday. She's part of WIPSU and part of an umbrella organization of women who have set out observers. They're accredited observers. They've set out observers all around the country to really understand the gender issues, the voting patterns for gender, and so forth. So as I said, I'm joined by Sakile. Sakile, again, welcome. It's been, I suppose, an exciting yesterday with all of the hullabaloo, if that's the right word, of the polling stations being closed, but we'll talk about that just now. Let's look at these results. 90 unopposed local authority candidates across the country, of which all of them are ZANU-PF. So ZANU-PF carried all of them in all the different provinces, and I looked at the statistics: 80 men, 10 women. So what are your comments about these results?
Well, I'm going to start by congratulating the 10 women. I think we can see that from the results, literally out of 90, we've only got 10 women who managed to succeed within their political party primaries. And in this case, obviously, they're all ZANU-PF. So, kudos to them for having made it to the to this day where we're receiving the announcement from ZEC. But I think, of course, there's some worrying trends. We've got 90 candidates who are unopposed. They're all coming from one political party, and we've only got 10 women coming through. Another thing that I think is a little bit, quite dampening on the gender side is looking at how, we've got essentially an average of about 2 women per province coming out of this 90. I think the Midlands province has got the highest with 4 women who are coming through the unopposed seats. So it talks a lot about the importance of how political parties can really color and shape, the gender and the youth and the inclusion of candidates. And this is a fantastic opportunity to raise that, because here we are with simply unopposed seats, and for me, it's a missed opportunity.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, look, we have been announcing here and there some of the results from polling stations, of course not announcing the winners because we're not allowed to do that. But one of the interesting statistics, which I think is going to be a trend, I can't confirm that until all the numbers are in, is definitely it seems that more women than men will be voting in this election. That seems to be the numbers.
I mean, if you look at it, you do recall that 57% of the voters' roll is actually women. So, it's good. We hope that we will see the full trends today. That's why we're here. Let's see the results that they're being announced in terms of the turnout as well. To be great to see if we are 57% of the voters' roll, if then we also replicate that same correlating statistic in terms of the turnout yesterday. But I think, just from a cursory glance, you could actually see that women went out to vote, and that's pretty, that was pretty reaffirming.
It's very reaffirming. I mean, but it's unfortunate, though, that even though the women went out to vote, they didn't have the women candidates to vote for.
Right, the menu doesn't look great. The menu doesn't look great. And I think this is what we're talking about, right? We really need to get a better quality menu. And when we talk about better quality, I mean to say, let's have a bit more inclusion in that menu. Let's see a bit of diversity in terms of the gender stats. Let's see a bit of diversity and increased diversity in terms of, persons under 18. Under 35, sorry, in terms of the voters. And of course, let's see a little, let's see the country represented by its full diversity, including persons with disability, including people from marginalized communities. So yes, women went out to vote, but the menu doesn't look great.
Now, one thing which baffled me is that if you want to get women candidates who have gone through their primaries, then you need them sitting at the primaries of political parties.
Precisely.
But when I looked at some of the primary elections, it was very clear that it was skewed towards men. And really, if you want candidates as women, they need to be at primaries. They need to have that 50%, so that when they get eventually to be candidates nominated by the parties, you have that right proportion.
Precisely. And I think if you look at the primaries, if you look at the contestation rate, you could see that women really did put themselves up to be considered within their political parties. But what we see is those incredible challenges, those barriers that we're talking about. And I think this brings the opportunity to talk about our campaign, to say we want women to go beyond barriers, but they need partners. And I think political parties are the best placed partners to deliver on gender equality in terms of internal contestation. So we need to see, rules that go beyond the barriers within the political parties to enable inclusion to be embedded during the primaries or during whatever candidate selection procedure that a political party is using, so that the menu that we get as general citizens really represents the full diversity of who we are. Yeah.
I mean, I have spoken recently to senior women government ministers as well as senior members of parliament who are women. And one thing that they said to me, which is stuck in my mind, they said, the men don't want to give up power. I think that's one of the problems.
I mean, this is it, right? I mean, we're dancing around the topic, but I think, representation is about power. And I think it's an opportunity, and the processes within political parties of candidate selection are power contestations. And we have to acknowledge that men and women experience leadership differently, experience membership within our political parties differently, and therefore they need to be facilitated to be enabled to overcome those challenges, so that they can contest equitably. Currently, they're not contesting equitably. And I think this is the call that we keep saying, because the results are looking not so great. Already we have very low numbers. And if you look at, in the next couple of days, as we are, going through the National Results Center and the announcements that ZEC will be making, we are anticipating, obviously you can predict a very sharp downward trend for the women. Like I say, back again to the unopposed. We're looking at 90 seats and we've only got 10 as women. So, that trend is going to be a sharp declined. But the early warning indicator was really nomination court as part of that electoral benchmark.
I must say, personally, I'm quite excited because when you get the first results, you're on the last leg, so to speak.
Right.
And we've just got the first results. So we're sort of like, now we're starting to anticipate over the next 2-3 days, more and more results trickling in thick and fast until, of course, in 5 days' time, hit the presidential election. So it's nice to get to that barrier. However, tell me this, though, through your observations and through your observers as women observers, I would hope that after the election, you would obviously be coming up with recommendations to understand, because you've seen it now on the ground. You've seen it played out actually happening in front of you. And there's always improvement in anything. And I'm sure you'll be coming up with recommendations for various authorities and bodies.
Thank you for that. That's actually a fantastic opportunity. So when you are accredited as an observer, you're basically your eyes, ears, etc. And you are obliged to respect the requirement to submit a report. And so all roads lead to the observer reports. And I hope that that's part of your benchmarks, because it would be great to talk about what do the observer reports look like. Because we're all observing, but we're observing from a different perspective. Not everybody's observing from the same viewpoint. And we would hope to be able to contribute, to that gender and inclusion policy that ZEC has already adopted, but also to contribute to our national policy. The gender policy for the country is now out. So it'd be fantastic to be able to, contribute to that through our reports and give very clear recommendations to say, how do we address this collectively as a country, and the various key stakeholders who are responsible for it. So many days ahead.
It's a perfect opportunity, isn't it? Because you've just had an election, you've seen it on the ground, the women voting, you've understood some of the hindrances they've had, whether it's access to polling, whether it's transport, whether it's late polling. Now, when your report, you can try and highlight some of these, and hopefully the next government.
And it's an evidence-driven process, right? And we acknowledge that this is what we've seen, and everybody can say, yes, we saw that.
At least the next government may do something about
Precisely. So it gives us a great jumping point. So, it gives us an opportunity to say collectively we agree, this is what it looked like, and we'll be able to move forward. So, for I think on policy, in terms of the policy and the advocacy front, it's green light ahead.
Well, we will be touching base with you, of course, the next few days, because what we'd like to get is your perspective, particularly when we start getting the numbers in to see the gender, to understand what's happening. Because I think these demographics, gender, what we call AMA 2000s, the youth are important.
Yes.
We need to understand this. Because interestingly enough, and I was talking to a political analyst last night, interesting enough, he was saying, you know what? It's the women who could carry this election.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
However, they still are not in positions of power.
Precisely.
As much as they should be, rather.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
So, Gilles, everyone in Goba, thank you so much, of course, to talking to ZTN Prime. We will be touching base with you over the next few days to get your perspectives. Whoops, sorry about that. I've just dropped my phone. We'll touching base with you to get your perspectives. Even back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Andy, for giving us that update. Andy Hodges, stationed at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and giving us the tidbits as they come through from the ZEC Command Center. Of course, we've seen some results that have been coming through in as far as the rural district councils as well as the urban local authorities, where 90 seats went uncontested. Now, here is the interesting part of the jigsaw puzzle. While we got into this election knowing that there were 90 uncontested ZANU-PF wards, to put it across that way, we could not run with it till the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission had actually put a stamp to it. And so ZEC just did that, and in the past hour we've been giving you some of the stats of how things played out and which wards were those, province by province, and of course you got the updates. We will be screening some of those results as they are coming through, and just a while ago we were engaging with our correspondents that are spread across the length and breadth of Zimbabwe, and they were letting us know how the process has been peaceful in Matebeleland, in the Midlands province, in Mashonaland East, Mashonaland Central. We also engaged the elections officer in not on just to get an update of how things played out there. So the highlight is that the process thus far has been peaceful, and of course we look forward to more details coming through. Now, late last night, a statutory instrument was released from the office of the presidency that indicated that voting had been extended into today. Now, while ZEC had given its official position last night that 12-hour period for each polling station across Zimbabwe was to be adhered to, it was necessary for there to be a statutory instrument so that from a legal perspective, leeway is given for that to be carried out. And the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has stuck to its guns. They have given us an indication that the 5-day period will be adhered to in as far as the pronouncements of the results. Now, as I indicated earlier, it's a different ball game altogether in as far as the House of Assembly, in as far as the local authorities in terms of results announcements. ZEC officials will not be announcing the results verbally or orally. However, those results will be reflected or pasted on the screens at the ZEC command centers, and of course we through the various media outlets spread across Zimbabwe will be disseminating that information to the masses. Time for us to take a breather. Don't go anywhere.
Give every morning the smart start it deserves with your favorite homegrown breakfast cereal. Nestle Ceravita. Fortified with Grain Smart, a smart combination of irons, vitamins and minerals. Your family gets all the energy they need to make the most of every day. That's why every morning deserves a smart start. Nestle Ceravita. Highly nutritious, simply delicious.
Welcome to the Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. This is ZTN Prime broadcasting to you.
So when COVID came.
Welcome back. You're watching the Mint live on ZTN Prime. I'm Eben Mabunda.
You are watching Election 2023. We are broadcasting to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. And of course, we are giving you live coverage of how this plebiscite is actually carrying on. Now, we do know from ZEC's official position that in Harare, only 23% of the polling stations actually opened at 7 a.m. yesterday. And so there were delays that were spread across Zimbabwe's capital. Now, as we said earlier that we would be giving you updates from the capital in terms of how things have panned out. Now we cross over to Melissa Chatikobo, who is at Warren 2 Primary School, one of the polling stations there. Good afternoon, Melissa, rather. What's the latest there at Warren Park Primary School?
Afternoon, Eben. We are at Warren Park Primary School, where voting began at night at around 8. Unfortunately, we haven't spoke to the presiding officers as they're still in the room counting votes. We're yet to get a formal comment from them. But we heard from people who are still outside. Sorry, there are people who are around the station who are saying that the voting began at 8 and it ended 8 a.m. in the morning.
So it started at 8 p.m. last night?
Yes. So it ended at 8 a.m. in the morning and voting went throughout the night.
Have you gotten an indication whether there were still people in the process of voting at the time that it hit 8 a.m.?
A.m. in the morning and voting went throughout the night.
What sentiment are you getting from the residents in Warren Park who, of course, would be the participants of the electoral processes within Warren Park?
That's where I get to hear from the presiding officers, because when we came, they were now counting their votes.
Would there be perhaps any expectations of
it
when
was a
you
mixed,
will be
it was a
able
mixed
to
view.
actually
Some
speak
they
to
were
the
happy
presiding
that
officer?
they had voted, and some they were a bit disappointed that it started late. So I get to hear from the presiding officers what could have caused the late voting and how it went.
Melissa, may you shed light in terms of how it is? We seem to be having challenges continuing that conversation with Melissa, but there you have it from Warren Park 2 Primary School. The voting started at 8 p.m. last night owing to delays with regards the availability of some of the ballots. We have Melissa Chatikobo back on the line. I'd asked the question before we lost to Melissa to say, is there any indication at this point that we will be able to engage? It looks like we just lost Melissa once again. We will, of course, continue to engaging with Melissa in terms of the spread of how things have played out across Zimbabwe. Time for us to take a breather. Election 2023, we'll be back with more.
Every morning, the smart start it deserves with your favorite homegrown breakfast cereal. Nestle Ceravita. Fortified with Grain Smart, a smart combination of ions, vitamins, and minerals. Your family gets all the energy they need to make the most of every day. That's why every morning deserves a smart start. Nestle Ceravita. Highly nutritious, simply delicious.
Welcome to the Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. This is ZTN Prime broadcasting to you.
So when COVID came,
Welcome back. You're watching The Mint live on ZTN Prime. I'm Eben Mabunda.
You are watching Election 2023. We are broadcasting to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. Of course, we are giving you the live updates of how this plebiscite is actually playing out. Now, from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, we got official statistics with regards 90 uncontested seats where ZANU-PF clinched an early lead, and we will be giving you an update in just a moment in terms of how the stats are playing out. As I indicated earlier, it's a different ball game, and as far as the local authorities are concerned, as well as also where the House of Assembly seats are concerned in terms of the results announcements, the results proclamation. And what we know now is that they will be pasted across the screens or monitors at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission and the media as we will be disseminating that information across the country. Now let's take a look at some of the stats that are coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission.
Thank you.
And welcome to the Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. This is ZTN Prime, broadcasting to you.
So when COVID came...
Welcome back. You're watching the Mint live on ZTN Prime. I'm Eben Mabunda.
You are watching Election 2023. We are broadcasting to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. Now, of course, we are giving you a live coverage of this very plebiscite in terms of what is the latest. And now we cross over to Marondera, where our correspondent Victor Maposa joins us. Hello, Victor. What's the latest?
Peace and political maturity can best describe the atmosphere that prevailed across Mashonaland and East Province yesterday during the voting process, which started at 7 a.m. save for those polling stations which received their ballot papers late. The Zimbabwe Elections Commission had to compensate for the lost time so that they can allow the voters to exercise their democratic right. Generally, the atmosphere was so peaceful and no incidents of violence were recorded across the province. We traveled in several polling stations where we discovered that the youth, women and first-time voters constituted the largest number of people who have voted across the province. Reporting for ZTN, I am Victor Maposa in Marondera.
Victor Maposa giving us that update there from Marondera. Now we cross over to Mashonaland West Province, where we are getting updates of how it played out in the chiefs elections that were held today. It's important to understand that in the upper house there are 80 seats, and in that 80 seats 18 of the seats are actually taken by the chiefs. So we cross over now to Mash West, where the chief elections officer there gives us this update. Let's take a look.
Do hereby declare that I have been accorded with the Electoral Act Chapter 230 and the regulations made thereunder ascertained the result of the poll for the said election, and that they were given to one Manyepa tribe, 14 votes, Basera Abel, 4 votes, and that I therefore declare the above said Manyepa tribe and this 24th day of August 2023 to be duly elected member of the Senate for Mashonaland West Province.
You are watching Election 2023, and we continue to receive the updates in terms of how the plebiscite has played across the country. And now we move to Hurungwe West for an update of how the election process has been playing out.
Right, so far tingauti tati chove mavhotsi akapera kuverengwa manheru ikozvo tiri kutarisa manenge vari kuita trickle in vachibva kuma polling stations nema-constituent centers vachiuya nema-results avo kuti akolatwe muno. Kana tapedza kukolata muno, ma-results edu anenge akutumirwa kumberi. Saka zvoitika nezvokudai ma-presidential elections, ma-results acho anotumirwa kuHarare head office via the DEO. Saka ibva pano anonanga kupi mukaroi obva azomhanyiswa kupi kuHarare. Eduwo pano ndinobva nawo pano ndakananga Chinoi, handisi kumira padistrict, ndonanga Chinoi kuprovince, ndonomasiya ikoko. Kana vazomabata-batawo votumira kuenda kupi kuHarare.
6.6 million registered voters, 12,370 polling stations spread across the length and the breadth of Zimbabwe. You are receiving the updates as they are coming through from the different parts of the country. And now we move to Gokwe Seseme for the updates of the situation there. Let's take a look.
We have 53 polling stations. As for yesterday, all the stations managed to close their polling stations on a good note, and they proceeded to counting process. Right now, as I am reporting, they are done with counting at polling station level, and all the 53 polling stations managed to proceed at ward level. Right now, as I'm speaking, they are busy collating the results at ward level. Ward 11 under Gokwe Sesame constituent brought their results 2 minutes before. The other remaining 6 wards are finishing their counting at ward level, and we expect the results very soon.
That update there coming from Gokwe Sesame, where it is, of course, that we are getting updates of how the electoral processes have taken place in Gokwe. They appear to have been seamless from that update that we are going. But I think the theme remains that it's been a peaceful process. We as ZTN Prime are strong advocates for peace before, during and after the elections. We pray and hope that that peace theme is maintained and upheld by all political actors across Zimbabwe. Now we take a look at some of the results that have been coming through from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission in as far as the local authorities. Let's take a look.
Following the story.
What is happening on Zimbabwe's roads? How did we get here? Through red robots. Basically break every road rule under the sun.
So inini ndakadhakwa nembanje dzangu ndikaenda kuchipatara ndaunorapwa kana handibatsiri asi ndikazvishaya tega aiwa.
Deeper analysis.
So, are you ready and prepared if violence rears up?
Jacob Mafume's party has taken hostage of them.
The videos are there.
Do not be drawn into the debate of discussing issues that are subjects. He said when he grows up, he would like to be like me.
Just to put you in there.
Good evening and welcome to the program. Just to break the ice, what is ZNF's mandate?
To promote media freedom.
And money matters.
Coming up, Tanganda Limited is set to bring online a macadamia processing plant.
Now, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange listed company Seedco Limited has resolved to suspend indefinitely its proposal.
Every week on ZTN Prime.
It is a real puzzle how crystal meth has made its way into communities and continues to ravage the youth. This is where it all begins. Is enough focus being put on mental health?
This is election 2023. We are broadcasting to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. Of course, we are giving you the updates as they are coming through from the four corners of Zimbabwe. And of course, we've been getting updates from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Command Center, where Andy Hodges, our correspondent, is stationed there. And of course, we crossed over to Gweru, where we were receiving some updates of what actually is taking place there. There is a mono theme, and that theme is peace spread across Zimbabwe as far as the electoral processes are actually concerned. We continue with more updates as they are coming. Now we move to Seke constituency for an update from the elections officer, Mr. Stanley Nodo. Let's take a look.
So far we compiled material from 2 months. Okay. It is 115 and 180. We are also waiting for other awards to submit their material so that we collect. There were some delays in terms of takeoff, but the process went on calmly and smoothly. We received no instances of violence. The process was very peaceful and smooth. We managed to complete voting in all of our 73